The strange Plath battlefield was silent. Broken ships and burned metal scattered across the ground. The human soldier walked carefully through the ruins, his boots pressing against ash and dust. He had been left behind after the last great fight, searching for survivors and trying to find a safe path. The war between humans and aliens had ended in blood, but small groups of enemies still hid in the shadows. Every corner felt dangerous. Every sound could mean death. He moved slowly, his weapon ready, his eyes sharp then. From the wreckage of a broken alien tank, he heard a soft cry. At first he thought it was a trick, a wounded enemy trying to lure him close. But the cry was too weak, too full of pain, too real. Against his better judgment, he stepped closer. There she was, a small alien child, her body shaking, her big dark eyes looking up at him. Her clothes were torn, her skin scratched, but what caught him most was the look of fear and hope together. She was alone, no family, no soldiers, nothing but the ruins around her. When she saw the human, she dragged herself forward on weak legs. Her voice was broken, but her words were clear. "Please, be my father," she whispered. The soldier froze. He was trained to fight, to kill, to survive, not to answer strange alien children begging for family. His heart wanted to step back, to say nothing, but his feet stayed still. The girl pressed her small hands together, tears running down her face. "Please," she begged again, her voice trembling like the last spark of life. The human's mind raced. This could be a trap, he thought. The aliens might have sent her to test his weakness, but she was shaking too much. Her eyes too innocent, her body too fragile. He saw no weapon, no danger, only a child who had lost everything. His chest grew heavy, but his lips stayed hard. "I am not your father," he said coldly. The girl lowered her head, but she did not move away. She crawled closer, her hands grabbing his boot. "You are human, you are strong. Please don't leave me," she whispered. Her voice stabbed at his heart like a hidden knife. The soldier pulled his boot away, trying to free himself from the strange bond. He was a fighter, not a father, he told himself. He had seen his own family die long ago in another city. To care again, to open his heart, meant only more pain, so he turned, ready to walk away. But then he heard her cough, weak and rough. He looked back and saw her small body trembling, her arms hugging her chest as the cold night winds passed. Her lips moved silently, though no sound came. She was still begging, still calling him her father with her eyes. The soldier's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to leave, but his legs would not move. He wanted to close his ears, but her soft cries echoed too loud inside his mind. Finally, he walked back and stood over her. The girl lifted her head slowly, hope shining again through tears. Her eyes begged louder than her voice ever could. "I will not be your father," the soldier said firmly, "but I will not leave you here to die." He bent down and picked her up, her body light like broken feathers in his arms. She pressed her head against his chest, whispering again, "Father." He shook his head, refusing to answer, but his arms did not let her go. The night grew darker, and danger grew stronger in the shadows. The soldier carried her with steady steps, his weapon ready in one hand, her small frame in the other. He told himself it was only for survival, only until he found a safe place. But deep inside, something else began to stir. A memory of what it felt like to protect. A memory of love he thought was lost forever. The girl's breathing slowed as she fell asleep in his arms. The soldier walked on, his heart heavy with questions. Why her? Why now? Why him? He didn't know the answers, but the sound of her whisper still rang in his ears. "Please, be my father." And though he denied it with his words, the silence of the battlefield seemed to whisper back, "One day, soldier, you will accept her. One day, you will call her your daughter, the reluctant guardian." The soldier walked through the ruins with the child in his arms. The night sky above filled with broken stars and smoke from the last battles. He kept telling himself this was only temporary. He would leave her at the first safe outpost or settlement. He was not her father. He was not anyone's father. But the girl refused to see him as anything else. Every time her small eyes opened, She looked up at him and whispered that single word. "Father." It made his chest tighten, made him remember voices he had buried long ago. Voices of his own family calling him by name before the war stole them away. The soldier hardened his heart again, his steps heavy on the cracked ground. He did not want this weakness. He did not want this bond. War had taught him that love was a chain, and chains only broke you when the bullets came. Still, the child clung to his coat, small fingers gripping him as though he was the last light in her dark world. They found shelter in the remains of an abandoned bunker. The air inside smelled of metal and dust. The soldier placed her gently on a broken cot, keeping distance, keeping his weapon close. But the girl kept watching him with wide eyes. Not afraid, not angry, only trusting. He could not understand it. Why would she trust him, a stranger, an enemy to her kind? And yet, when the wind howled outside, she whispered again, "Father, don't go." He sat against the wall, shaking his head. "I am not your father," he muttered under his breath. But when her eyes finally closed in sleep, he stood guard through the long hours of the night, his weapon pointed at the shadows. Something about her presence made the silence feel less empty, less cruel, and that frightened him more than any enemy ambush could. By dawn, the soldier moved again, carrying her once more. The land around them was dangerous. Patrols of alien soldiers still searched for survivors. Traps were laid in ruined streets. He wanted to move fast, but her little legs slowed him down. She stumbled, she coughed. Yet every time she fell behind, she forced herself to catch up. Her spirit surprised him. She was fragile but unbroken, weak but unwilling to give up. Each time he looked back, she was still there, still smiling faintly when their eyes met. As the sun rose, they passed a shattered marketplace, the remains of alien signs hanging crooked on broken walls. There was food scattered among the rubble, but most of it was spoiled or poisoned by the war. The soldier picked what he could, chewing quickly, but the girl waited for him to share. At first he ignored her, then he sighed and gave her half. Her small face lit up as though he had given her the world. Something stirred inside him again, a memory of giving food to his own daughter long ago, a daughter who was no longer alive. The pain stabbed deep, and he turned his head away. He could not let himself feel this, not again, not with her. But feelings do not listen to orders, and no weapon can shoot them down. That night, they hid in the ruins of a burned transport ship. The soldier heard footsteps outside, alien voices whispering in the dark. Searching, he gripped his weapon tight, ready to fight, but before he could move, the girl touched his sleeve and shook her head. She pulled him down into the shadows, her small finger pressed against her lips. The soldiers passed by, their lights flashing across the wreck, but they did not see them. The girl had saved him. The soldier stared at her in silence, unable to speak, unable to understand. She had no reason to protect him, no reason to risk herself, and yet she had chosen him, trusted him. When the danger passed, he whispered, "Why?" The girl smiled softly and said, "Because you are my father." He turned his head sharply, trying to hide the storm inside him. He wanted to shout that he was not, that he could not be. But no words came, only silence. Through the long night he thought about her. She was more than a burden now. She was becoming part of him, and that terrified him. Because to care meant to lose, and he had lost enough already. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw her smile, heard her voice, and felt the chain pulling tighter. By morning, he told himself once again, "This is only temporary. I will find a place to leave her. I am not her father. I cannot be her father." But as she held his hand with trust, walking beside him through the smoke and ruins, the soldier felt the lie burning in his own chest. The bond was already growing, and deep down he knew it. No matter how hard he tried to fight it, no matter how many times he told himself otherwise, the little alien girl had already become more than a stranger. She was already his daughter in every way but words. Signs of loyalty, ruins stretched far ahead, broken towers leaning like bones of a dead world. The soldier moved quickly, his eyes sharp, his weapon always ready. The little alien girl followed close behind, her small legs trying hard to match his pace. She stumbled often, but she never complained, never asked him to carry her. Each time she fell, she pushed herself up again, brushing the dirt from her knees at first. The soldier thought she was slowing him down, a burden that would get them both killed. But slowly, he began to notice small things. When he was hungry, she pointed to hidden roots he would have missed. When his steps grew too loud, she tugged on his sleeve and guided him to softer ground. When he paused to rest, she sat beside him in silence, her eyes always scanning the shadows. One night, while the soldier rested with his back against a broken wall, the girl stayed awake. He opened his eyes and found her holding a piece of metal pipe in her hands. As though guarding him, her small body trembled with the effort. But her eyes were firm. She was trying to protect him, even though she had no strength, no skill, no weapon. The soldier looked away, his chest tightening with feelings he did not want. He told himself it was just instinct. She clung to him because she had no one else. But another voice whispered in his heart, a quieter, more dangerous voice. It said she trusted him, not because she had to, but because she believed in him. That thought shook him more than any battlefield could, because belief was heavier than bullets. The next morning, as they crossed a ruined street, the soldier heard movement. Alien scavengers stepped out from the shadows, their eyes glowing, their weapons ready. The soldier raised his rifle, but before he could fire, the girl screamed. Her cry was sharp, a warning that came a heartbeat before the first shot. He ducked, the bullet flying past his head. The fight was quick and brutal. The soldier killed two. The rest fled into the ruins. When the silence returned, he turned to the girl. She was trembling, her hands shaking, but her eyes were steady. "You saved me," he said without thinking. The girl only smiled. "Because you are my father," she whispered softly. The soldier's throat grew tight, his heart heavy. He wanted to tell her again that he was not, but the words felt weaker now for the first time. He wondered if denying her was more painful than accepting her. That night, the soldier gave her his rations first. She looked surprised, then grateful, eating slowly as if the food was treasure. He watched her carefully, not with suspicion but with something he could not name. She smiled at him often, a gentle smile that carried warmth into the cold air. And every time she smiled, he felt a crack forming in the walls around his heart. Still, he fought the feeling. He told himself again and again, "I cannot be her father." But when the girl fell asleep beside him, leaning against his arm, he did not move her. He let her stay, listening to her soft breathing in the silence of the ruins. For the first time in years, he did not feel completely alone. The days passed, and the signs of loyalty only grew stronger. The girl walked with him through danger without fear. She carried small pieces of scrap, always trying to help. She whispered warnings when she sensed enemies, and her instincts were often right. She even laughed sometimes, a sound so rare it startled him. The soldier found himself speaking more than before. He told her where to step, how to hide, how to stay alive. At first he thought of it as training, but soon he realized he was teaching her the way a father teaches a child. She listened to him with wide eyes, soaking in every word as though his voice was the only truth in her world. And that scared him, because he had never wanted to be anyone's truth again. One evening, as the sun bled red over the horizon, the girl picked a single wild flower from the cracks in the ground. She walked to him, holding it out with both hands. "For you, father," she said, her voice full of pride. The soldier stared at the flower, unable to move, unable to speak. It was such a small gift, yet it carried more weight than all the medals he had ever earned. He took it silently, his fingers brushing hers. For the first time, he did not correct her, did not tell her he was not her father. The word hung between them, soft and powerful. And though his lips remained silent, his heart gave the answer he could not speak. A dangerous, unshakable truth. He was beginning to care. As night fell, he kept watch while she slept, the flower resting beside his weapon. He knew the war was not over. Enemies still hunted them. Danger was never far. But the greatest danger of all was already inside him. The danger of love, the danger of loyalty, the danger of becoming a father again. And though he tried to fight it, deep inside, he was already losing the battle, the enemy's offer. The soldier and the girl moved through the ruins for many days, their bond growing in silence, in small actions, in shared danger. But the war was never far behind them. The alien patrols hunted the land, searching for survivors, punishing those who resisted. The soldier knew sooner or later they would be caught, and that moment arrived sooner than he wished. It was night when it happened. They were resting in the hollow of a broken ship. The girl curled against his side, her breathing soft. Then the sound came: heavy boots, strange voices, and the light of search drones moving across the wreckage. The soldier pushed the girl behind him, raising his weapon, but there were too many. A circle of soldiers with glowing eyes and sharp blades. He fought like a storm, his rifle spitting fire, his knife slashing in close quarters. The girl screamed his name, no, not his name. The word, father, her cry sharper than the bullets flying through the air. He killed more than he thought possible. But a heavy blow struck his head. The world spun. The ground cracked beneath him. And then everything went dark. When he opened his eyes, chains bound his arms. The air was cold. The floor beneath him metal. He was inside an alien holding cell. The walls glowing with faint blue light. The girl was there too, sitting across from him, her small hands tied, her eyes wide with fear. She whispered, "Father," and even now, the word cut deeper than any chain. Soon, an alien officer entered, tall, armored, his voice cruel. "You are a soldier of humanity," the alien said. "You fought well, but now your war is finished." The soldier stared back with cold eyes, but said nothing. The officer turned his gaze to the girl, then back to him, and smiled with sharp teeth. "This child is nothing, weak and useless. She is not your kind, not your blood." The soldier's jaw tightened, but he still kept silent. The officer leaned closer, his voice dripping with poison. "You want freedom, human. We can give it to you. Leave the child, and you will live. We will let you walk away unharmed." The soldier's heart pounded, his chest heavy, his breath caught. The offer was simple: his life for hers. Survival without the weight of a child who did not belong to him. The girl turned her head toward him, her eyes trembling, her lips quivering. She whispered again, softer than ever, "Please, father, don't leave me." Her voice filled the room, filled his chest, filled every broken piece of his soul. The officer laughed, seeing his hesitation. "You are not her father. Why die for her? She is nothing to you." Less than nothing. Memories rushed through the soldier's mind. His real family, gone in fire and war. The years of silence and emptiness. And now this child, clinging to him, begging for the one thing she had lost: family. His heart burned like it had not burned in years. He lifted his head, his eyes sharp with fire. "She is my daughter," he said, his voice cold and steady. The officer froze for a moment, then laughed louder. "Foolish human, you choose death." But the soldier smiled, a small, dangerous smile. In that moment, the chains felt weaker, his spirit stronger, because he had spoken the truth. Not the one he tried to deny, but the one that lived deep inside him. The girl's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were not only of fear, but of hope. She whispered again, "Father," with pride, not desperation. And the soldier knew. No matter what happened next, he had already made his choice. The officer ordered the guards to prepare the execution chamber. But the soldier had been in worse places before. He studied the room, the guards, the timing of their steps, the angle of their weapons. He was no longer just fighting for himself. He was fighting for his daughter. That thought gave him strength beyond chains, beyond fear, beyond pain. The girl leaned toward him, her voice shaking but certain. "I will not let them take you," she whispered, her small body trembling as if a storm lived inside her. The soldier turned his head sharply, realizing she meant it. He could not allow her to sacrifice herself. She was his reason now, his blood and spirit, if not in flesh. "Stay with me," he whispered back, "no matter what happens. Stay with me." As the guards dragged them toward the chamber, the girl held his hand tightly, her small fingers wrapped around his rough ones. refusing to let go, and as the doors opened, the soldier's mind sharpened like steel. There would be no surrender, no trade, no abandonment. He would fight, and he would live not for himself, but for her. The enemy had given him a choice, and he had made it, not as a soldier, not as a survivor, but as a father. And for the first time in years, he felt alive. The war was not over. The danger had only just begun. But one truth was now stronger than death itself. He had a daughter to protect. The escape, the chains bit into his wrists, but the soldier's mind was sharper than the iron that held him. He had been in cells before, had seen men break, but he was not a man alone anymore. The girl's small hand still gripped his, her eyes never leaving his face. It was not fear in her gaze. It was trust, unshakable trust, the kind that could bend steel. He had made his choice in the officer's chamber, and now he would live with it, or die with it. 2 guards dragged him forward, their steps heavy, their alien armor clanging in the narrow hall. The officer walked ahead, his cruel laughter echoing, promising an end that would break both human and child. The soldier's eyes scanned the corridor, every shadow, every corner, every mistake in the enemy's design. His breath slowed, his heart beat steady like a hunter before the strike. He was no longer fighting only for survival. He was fighting for her, for his daughter. When they reached the chamber, the blue lights flickered, the machines waiting like hungry beasts. The officer turned to him and sneered. "Last chance, human, abandon her, and I will give you freedom." The soldier's lips curved into a thin smile. "You still don't understand," he said coldly. "I was free the moment I chose her." Before the officer could answer, the soldier moved with a violent twist. He slammed his chained hands into the nearest guard's throat. The alien choked, dropping his weapon. And in one swift motion, the soldier caught it. He fired at the second guard, the blast tearing through armor. The chamber filled with smoke and screams. The girl shrieked, but her eyes shone with fire. "Father!" she cried, and the word gave him strength greater than steel. The officer lunged forward, but the soldier met him head-on. Chains still bound his wrists, but rage and love turned them into weapons. He swung hard, the metal links cracking against the officer's mask. The alien staggered, but struck back, claws ripping across the soldier's shoulder. Pain burned through him, but he did not fall. He could not fall. The girl rushed forward, biting at the rope that bound her hands, pulling with all her might. At last the cord snapped, and she grabbed the fallen guard's blade. Her small hands shaking but determined, she threw it to the soldier. And for the first time since the capture, his hands were armed with steel again. With a roar, he drove the blade through the officer's chest. The alien fell, his eyes wide with shock, his cruel laughter silenced forever. The room was chaos now. Alarms blaring, red lights flashing, soldiers rushing toward the chamber. The soldier scooped up the girl and charged through the smoke. Bullets and plasma fire cut the air, but he moved like a storm, dodging, weaving, striking when he had to. The girl clung to him tightly, her face buried against his chest, whispering the word that kept him alive. "Father, father, father." They burst into the outer hall, where the cold night air struck their faces. Above them, alien ships moved like predators in the sky, but the ground was broken with ruins that could hide them. The soldier ran, his lungs burning, his muscles screaming, but he did not stop. Behind them, explosions ripped through the facility as the alarms grew louder. But ahead was freedom, and freedom was enough. When they finally reached the cover of an old collapsed tower, he set her down gently. She looked up at him with wide eyes, her small face glowing in the light of distant fires. "You didn't leave me," she whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and relief. The soldier knelt before her, his hand resting on her shoulder. "Never," he said firmly. "I will never leave you." The words surprised him, but they were true. For the first time, he spoke not as a soldier giving orders, but as a father giving a promise. The girl's tears spilled, but her smile was bright. She wrapped her small arms around his neck, whispering, "You are my father." And this time, he did not deny it. They rested only for a short while before moving again. The enemy would not stop. The hunt would not end. But something had changed now. The soldier was no longer carrying her as a burden. He was carrying her as his child, his reason, his blood and spirit, if not in flesh. The chains that once held him were broken, and the bond that replaced them was stronger than war itself. As dawn broke, the ruins glowed with red light. The soldier stood tall, his weapon in one hand, the girl's hand in the other, for the first time since the war began. He felt something stronger than survival. He felt purpose. He felt family. He felt unshakable resolve. No matter how many enemies came, no matter how far they had to run, he knew one truth with absolute certainty. He was her father now, and nothing would take that away. The final battle. The ruins burned under the weight of alien fire. The night sky alive with red streaks from ships above. The soldier and the girl moved through the wreckage like shadows. Hunted at every turn, they had escaped the prison. But freedom was only a word until they reached true safety. And safety was still far away, hidden beyond walls of fire and steel. The soldier knew the enemy would not stop now. He had killed their officer, broken their chains, and declared the child his own. That was not just defiance, it was insult. And the alien army would make him pay. But he did not care, because for the first time in years, he had something to fight for beyond his own life. The girl stayed close to him, her hand never leaving his. She walked with determination far greater than her small frame should have allowed. Every time she stumbled, she forced herself back up, her voice whispering only one word, "Father." The sound of it gave him strength when his body wanted to collapse. And when she smiled through exhaustion, he felt stronger than any weapon could make him. By dawn, they reached the edge of a canyon. Across it lay the ruins of an old human outpost, perhaps still holding supplies, maybe even a working signal tower. If they could reach it, they might call for help, or at least find shelter. But as they stepped onto the broken ridge, the air filled with a deep hum. Alien ships descended, their shadows covering the canyon like wings of death. Dozens of soldiers poured out, armored and armed, their glowing eyes fixed on the human and the girl. The soldier pushed her behind him, his rifle steady, his breath calm. He had fought many battles, but this was different. This was not about winning or losing. This was about protecting. He was outnumbered, outgunned. But retreat was no longer an option. There was nowhere left to run. The first wave came fast, weapons blazing. The soldier fired back, every shot precise, every move sharp with purpose. Bodies fell, smoke rose. The air filled with the screams of war. The girl crouched behind a broken wall watching him, her eyes wide with fear and pride together. She wanted to help, but she knew she was small, weak, fragile, and yet her heart refused to stay silent. The second wave came stronger, surrounding them from both sides. The soldier fought with everything he had, rifle, knife, fists, even broken stones when ammo ran dry. Blood ran down his arm. His breath came ragged, but he would not stop. Every time he fell to one knee, the sound of her voice pulled him back up. "Father," she cried. "Don't give up, Father." But then, in a moment that cut deeper than any blade, a soldier slipped past his defense. The alien raised its weapon toward the child. Ready to strike, the soldier turned, but he was too far, too slow. The girl's scream tore through the battlefield. And then, before he could reach her, she moved. She threw herself in front of the blow, her small body shielding him. The weapon struck her side, not fatal, but enough to send her crashing to the ground. Her cry was sharp, but her eyes stayed fixed on him. "Father," she whispered through the pain. "I will not let them take you." The soldier froze. His heart breaking, rage exploded inside him. Hotter than any fire, he charged forward with a roar that shook even the aliens. He tore through them with wild fury, his blade striking like thunder, his fists like hammers. Every enemy that stood before him fell. Every weapon that aimed at her was shattered. He was no longer a soldier fighting a war. He was a father defending his child. The battlefield grew silent. The last enemy fleeing into the smoke, The soldier dropped to his knees beside her, his hands trembling as he held her small frame. Blood stained her clothes, but her eyes were still bright. Still alive, she smiled weakly, reaching up to touch his face. "You are my father," she whispered again, her voice faint but full of certainty. Tears blurred his vision, something he had not felt since the day he lost his first family. This child, this fragile alien girl, had given everything to protect him. She had risked herself not because she was strong, but because she believed in him. And in that moment, he realized belief was stronger than blood, stronger than war, stronger than death. She was his daughter in every way that mattered. He pressed his forehead against hers, whispering back, "Yes, you are my child, and I am your father." The words broke the chains that had bound his heart for years. The girl's eyes closed, not in death, but in peace, resting in the safety of his arms. And the soldier swore silently to himself, no matter what came next, he would protect her with everything he had. The canyon lay before them, the ruins of the human outpost still waiting in the distance. The war was not over, the road was not safe, but the bond between them was unbreakable now, forged in fire and blood. They were not just survivors, not just fugitives. They were father and daughter, and together they would face whatever came. The acceptance. The sun rose slowly over the broken horizon, its red light falling across the canyon like spilled fire. The soldier carried the girl in his arms, her small frame pressed against his chest. Her wound was wrapped with torn cloth, her breathing soft but steady. Each step he took was heavy, but his resolve was stronger than stone. He was no longer moving for himself, he was moving for her. The ruins of the human outpost stood ahead, silent and empty. Its walls cracked, its towers broken, yet still it offered hope inside. He found shattered machines, rusted weapons, and a signal tower that leaned but had not fully fallen. The soldier laid her gently on a piece of cloth, brushing the dust from her face. "Rest, my child," he whispered, the word flowing from him like it had always been there. Her eyes opened slowly, weak but glowing. "You called me your child," she said, her voice fragile as a whispering breeze. He nodded, his throat tight, his eyes burning with unshed tears. "I did," he answered softly, "because that is who you are. You are my daughter." She smiled, and the light in her eyes shone brighter than the rising sun. For years he had lived only as a soldier, a man with no family, no home, no heart. But this child had broken through his armor, had given him something the war could never destroy. She had given him purpose, and in return, he had given her what she begged for from the beginning. Not just protection, not just survival, but a father. The signal tower groaned as he worked, his hands steady despite the pain in his wounds. He connected wires, adjusted power cells, and finally lit a weak beacon into the sky. Maybe humans would hear it, maybe no one would. But he no longer cared for himself. He cared only that she had a chance. She was his reason, his family, his daughter, outside. Alien patrols were still searching. The sound of their engines echoed in the distance. Drawing closer, the soldier gripped his weapon once more, his body weary but unbroken. He looked at the girl, who now sat up despite her weakness, her small hands holding the flower she had once given him. She placed it in his palm and whispered, "For you, Father." His chest tightened, and he closed his hand around it. That single flower weighed more than all his medals, more than every honor he had earned in war. It was not a symbol of victory, but of love, a reminder that even in ashes, something beautiful could bloom. And it was hers, his daughter's gift to him. The aliens came fast, their shadows darkening the canyon walls. The soldier stood tall, his rifle steady, his eyes sharp. The girl rose beside him, her small body trembling, but her spirit unshaken. She held no weapon, but she held something far greater: faith. Faith in him, faith in the bond they now shared. The enemy surrounded them, but the soldier did not feel fear. He looked at the girl and nodded, and she nodded back. Whatever happened now, they would face it together, not as soldier and orphan, not as strangers bound by chance, but as father and daughter. Unbreakable, The first shot fired, and the battle began again. The soldier fought with a fury born, not from duty, but from love. Every move was for her, every strike to protect her future. The girl stayed close, calling out warnings. Guiding him with sharp eyes, they moved as one. Like family always does. Hours later, when the dust settled and the enemy lay broken, the soldier dropped to one knee, exhausted. The girl knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "You didn't leave me," she whispered. Her tears falling softly, he held her tight, his voice steady despite the weight of his pain. "I told you, I will never leave you because you are my daughter, and nothing will change that." The words hung in the air, strong and final. The battlefield was still burning, the world still broken, but inside that promise was peace. The soldier had lost much in his life, but in this child, he had found everything again. And she, who once begged for a father, now truly had one. As the sun set behind the ruins, painting the sky in gold and crimson, they walked together hand in hand, two figures against the endless war, not bound by blood, but by something stronger. A soldier and his daughter, united by choice, by love, by humanity. Whatever dangers still waited, whatever battles still came, they would face them as family forever.